Don't send that invitation.
She's your mother.
She won't be at our wedding!
Good thing I mailed it yesterday.
Adrian's face went white. Not pale, white. Like every drop of blood had drained out of him in half a second. Behind him, his father's champagne glass slipped from his fingers. It hit the marble floor and exploded into 100 tiny stars. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. The whole engagement dinner froze around that one shattered glass like the room itself understood something terrible had just started. And that's when Naomi understood something that would change everything. They weren't scared of an awkward reunion. They were terrified of what Adrian's mother might say the second she walked into that wedding. That one envelope, one stamp, one signature on a mailing form didn't just threaten a wedding. It cracked open 28 years of buried lies. And baby, we are just getting started. Stick with me all the way to the end, because this story goes places you will not see coming, and by the time we land on that final image, you're going to understand exactly why silence is the loudest confession a family can make. Let's rewind. 3 months earlier. Atlanta is glowing gold under a September sunset, and Naomi Carter is standing on a rooftop terrace in a cream dress, surrounded by string lights and every person she loves, celebrating her engagement to Adrian Brooks, heir to one of the city's most respected real estate empires. Everyone is smiling. Everyone is toasting. Somebody's cousin is already 3 glasses of champagne deep and crying happy tears into a napkin. Adrian is the guy every friend group has exactly one of. Charming, successful, generous with compliments and even more generous with attention. He remembers your coffee order. He remembers your mother's birthday. He built Naomi's entire dream proposal around one small detail she mentioned in passing 8 months earlier, a detail she genuinely forgot she'd even said out loud. On paper, this is the fairy tale everyone tells you to hold out for. But here's the thing about fairy tales. They always skip one chapter. Because at every single Brooks family gathering, there's one chair that stays empty. Nobody sits in it. Nobody mentions it. Nobody even looks directly at it, like it's radioactive. The first time Naomi noticed it, she assumed it was just an extra seat, forgotten during setup. She almost moved it herself. Vanessa stopped her with a hand on her wrist and a strange little smile. "Leave it," she said. "It stays exactly where it is." Naomi laughed it off. Rich families have their quirks, she told herself. But then she started asking questions, the way any curious, thoughtful person would, and every question she asked landed the exact same way. "So, Adrian, tell me about your mom. What's she like?" Silence. The clinking of forks against plates suddenly becomes the loudest sound in the room. Adrian gives her an answer that first night. "She left us," he says, and quickly changes the subject to dessert. 2 weeks later, she asks again, gently this time, thinking maybe the first answer was just easier than the truth. This time, he says his mother struggles with her mental health and prefers to stay away from the family. A month after that, at his father's birthday dinner, she asks one more time, and Adrian tells her his mother moved overseas years ago for a fresh start. 4 months into their engagement, she finally asks Harold directly, and Harold looks at her with a tight, practiced smile and says, Adrian's mother simply doesn't want to be part of their lives anymore. 4 different stories. 4 different women, practically. None of them line up. None of them explain the empty chair, or the silence, or the way Vanessa's smirk deepens every single time the subject comes up, like she's sitting on something delicious, and she's savoring the wait before she gets to share it. And Naomi starts wondering something she can't unwonder. Who is this woman? And why does an entire wealthy, confident, powerful family go quiet the second her name almost slips out? Then one rainy Tuesday night, while helping organize old storage boxes in the Brooks family mansion for an upcoming renovation, Naomi finds something that stops her cold. She's flipping through box after box of family photographs, Decades of birthdays and graduations and holidays, when she realizes something impossible. There isn't a single photograph of Adrian's mother anywhere in that entire house. Not one baby picture with her holding him. Not one wedding photo from Harold and Margaret's own ceremony. Not one candid shot from a birthday party, a holiday morning, a random Tuesday afternoon. It's not that the photos are hidden somewhere. It's that someone went through this entire house, frame by frame, room by room, and surgically removed her from existence. You don't erase someone that thoroughly because they simply moved away. You erase someone that thoroughly because you're terrified of what happens if people remember she was ever here. And Naomi realizes, standing alone in that cold storage room with rain hammering the windows, that this isn't a family with a sad story. This is a family running from something, and she has just accidentally started chasing it. So she starts digging, quietly, carefully. The way you dig when you already suspect the ground is going to bite back. She searches old family records tucked away in a drawer Adrian forgot to lock, files from a decade before she was even born. Buried between old tax documents and property deeds, she finds a name attached to an old rural Georgia address, 2 hours outside the city. Margaret Brooks. Her hands are trembling as she copies the address onto a sticky note and folds it into her wallet like contraband. She drives out there alone on a Saturday, telling Adrian she's meeting a design client outside the city. It's the first real lie she's ever told him, and something about that fact sits heavy in her chest the entire drive. The whole way there, her mind builds a villain. A cold woman. A dangerous woman. Someone worth erasing from every photo album in the house. Instead, she pulls up to a small farmhouse wrapped in flowers, wildflowers climbing the porch rails, wine chimes swaying gently in the breeze, birds singing like they've never known a single sad day. It's the last place on earth she expected to find a monster. The front door opens before she even knocks, and standing there is a woman with warm eyes and silver hair pulled back neatly, wearing an apron dusted with flour, like she's been expecting company for years and simply kept the kettle warm the entire time. "I've been praying I'd meet you," Margaret says. Naomi freezes on the porch steps, her heart suddenly loud in her own ears, because Margaret already knows her name. Margaret knows about her charity work downtown, the fundraiser she organized last spring, the scholarship program she quietly funds for design students. Margaret knows the exact date of the wedding. Margaret even pulls out a small hand-knitted blanket from a basket by the door, still unfinished, meant as a wedding gift she's been working on for months. This woman has been quietly loving a family that erased her. Nothing about her, nothing at all, matches Adrian's 4 different stories. Naomi sits at Margaret's small kitchen table, her tea going cold in front of her, untouched, and finally asks the question that's been burning through her chest for months. "Why did you disappear?" Margaret's warm smile fades for the first time since Naomi arrived, her hands wrapped tighter around her own mug. "Ask Harold why I disappeared," she says softly, and there's a kind of exhausted pain behind those words that no amount of years seems to have softened. That's it. That's all she'll give, no matter how gently Naomi pushes. But before Naomi leaves, standing on the porch as the sun starts dipping behind the tree line, Margaret takes her hand and presses something small and cold into her palm. A silver bracelet, engraved on the inside in tiny, careful letters worn smooth from years of handling. Truth survives every lie. Before she leaves, Naomi asks one more thing, standing halfway down the porch steps. "Does Adrian know you're here? Does he know this address?" Margaret's eyes go distant for a second, like she's traveling back through years of Sunday afternoons spent hoping for a knock that never came. "He used to know," she says. "A long time ago, before someone made sure he'd forget." That single sentence follows Naomi the entire drive home, looping over and over in her head. Someone made sure he'd forget. Not time, not distance. A person, an action, a choice made deliberately by somebody who wanted a little boy to grow up believing his own mother simply stopped loving him. Naomi drives home with that bracelet burning a hole in her pocket, and 100 new questions crowding her mind like static she can't tune out. Why would a family erase someone this gentle, this warm, this clearly harmless? What exactly did Harold do to Margaret all those years ago? And why does everyone inside that mansion look genuinely terrified the moment her name comes up in conversation? You are not going to believe how deep this goes. Somebody tells Adrian that Naomi drove out to see his mother. We don't know who yet. Hold on to that. Keep it tucked away, because it matters more than you think. But the second Adrian finds out, something in him shifts, permanently, like a switch flipped in the dark that can never be flipped back. The man who remembered her coffee order, who cried during their engagement toast, who once drove 4 hours in the rain just to bring her soup when she was sick, that man is gone. He storms into her office that evening, and the glass door slams so hard the blinds rattle against the frame. He throws the silver bracelet across the room. It skitters under her desk and comes to rest against the leg of her chair. "You went behind my back," he snaps, his voice unrecognizable. "She's your mother, Adrian. You don't understand what you just did." "Then explain it to me." He doesn't. He can't, or he won't. And honestly, at this point, Naomi isn't sure there's a difference. He just gives her one command, cold and final: never see her again. And Naomi, for the first time in their entire relationship, looks him dead in the eye and says no. That single word rearranges her whole life within the week. Word travels fast in families like the Brooks family. By the next morning, Naomi's own mother calls, confused, asking why Harold left her a voicemail suggesting the wedding might need to be postponed. By that afternoon, a bridesmaid texts her a screenshot of a group chat where someone she's never even met is already speculating about a broken engagement. Naomi hasn't broken anything. She's just refused to disappear on command, and apparently that alone is enough to set an entire machine into motion against her. Adrian cancels their honeymoon without discussing it with her first. He quietly removes her name from the wedding accounts, transferring every dollar into accounts she can no longer access. He changes the locks on the penthouse they were supposed to move into together and doesn't bother telling her until the doorman does. He tells vendors, caterers, even her own bridesmaids that she's been acting unstable lately, that she needs space, that they should keep their distance from her for now. Vanessa takes it even further. She works Atlanta's social circles like a general moving troops across a map, planting one rumor here, one carefully worded whisper there, until Naomi's design clients start pulling contracts one by one, quietly, without explanation, the way people do when they've been told something ugly and don't want to say it out loud. Her business, the one she built with her own 2 hands over 6 exhausting years, starts bleeding out in real time. Friends stop returning her calls. Group chats go quiet. Invitations stop arriving. Her wedding planner quits with 0 explanation, just a short clipped email and a refund that never actually comes. Sponsors who were excited last month to partner with her design brand suddenly go completely silent, their emails unanswered, their assistants suddenly unreachable. She sits alone in her apartment one night, the lights off except for a single lamp in the corner, her wedding dress hanging in its garment bag on the closet door like a ghost, invitation cards scattered across the floor like fallen leaves, and she whispers into the empty room, to nobody at all. Why is everyone so afraid of one woman? Her phone buzzes on the coffee table. It's Margaret. She picks up, and Margaret's voice is different this time. Lower, heavier, like she's been sitting with something for hours before finally deciding to say it out loud. It's worse than you think. Hold that thought right there, because in exactly 1 minute we're going to talk about something that's actually going to matter a lot to a specific group of people watching this video right now, and then we are diving straight back into the fire, so don't you dare go anywhere. Real quick, before we go further into Naomi's story, I want to tell you about something I built for creators exactly like the people watching this video right now. If you've ever tried writing a story this addictive and hit a wall halfway through the first act, my book, Script to Screen, the AI-assisted and original blueprint for writing viral stories that actually hit, walks you through the exact structure creators use to build hooks, twists, and payoffs that keep millions of people glued to the screen until the very last second. And if your stories live on faces, If you need consistent characters across dozens of scenes without them morphing into strangers halfway through, my second book, Same Face, Every Frame, the creator's playbook for consistent AI characters across flow, AI whisk, mid-journey, and beyond, gives you the exact playbook for keeping a character looking like themselves from the very first frame to the very last one. Both links are sitting quietly in the description below, whenever you're ready for them. Now back to Naomi, because things are about to get a whole lot heavier. Naomi decides she's done waiting for someone to hand her the truth on a silver platter. She hires an elderly investigative journalist named Dolores, a woman who spent 30 years chasing stories nobody wanted told. The kind of woman who reads old microfiche for fun on a Sunday afternoon and calls it relaxing. Not a lawyer. Not the police. Not yet, anyway. Someone who simply refuses to stop asking questions until the questions run out completely. Dolores dives headfirst into old newspaper archives, dusty court records, forgotten storage units rented out for decades and never touched, and bank statements nobody's looked at since before Naomi was born. Dolores works out of a cramped office above a laundromat, walls covered floor to ceiling in sticky notes and timelines, the kind of workspace that looks chaotic to anyone else and makes perfect sense to her. Families like this don't erase people over nothing, Dolores tells Naomi on their first meeting, sliding a mug of burnt coffee across the desk. They erase people over money, or shame, or both. Give me 2 weeks. Every single answer they find cracks open 2 more questions. They confirm one enormous fact almost immediately, within the first week. Margaret never abandoned this family. She was pushed out, forced out, systematically removed. But why? What could possibly justify erasing a woman that gentle from her own son's entire life? Dolores keeps pulling threads, working late into the night with reading glasses perched on her nose and a legal pad filling up with names, dates, dollar amounts. Eventually, she finds something massive tangled up in the mess, buried under layers of paperwork designed to look boring enough that nobody would ever bother reading it closely. Millions of dollars, missing from a charity foundation the Brooks family used to run together decades earlier, back when Margaret still had her name on the letterhead. Every single trail, every signature, every wire transfer, every falsified expense report leads straight back to one person, Harold. They're one folder away from proving it beyond any doubt. One signature comparison away from connecting every single dot in a straight, undeniable line. Then, overnight, the evidence disappears. Someone breaks into Dolores's office while she's out getting dinner. Files gone, every drawer emptied. Hard drives wiped completely clean. Photographs of the documents deleted remotely from a cloud account only 3 people had access to. Whoever did this moved fast, and they moved smart, smarter than a random break-in, smarter than someone acting alone. Naomi stands in that ransacked office the next morning, papers scattered across the floor like debris after a storm, and she realizes something chilling that settles into her stomach like a stone. Whoever is protecting this secret isn't finished protecting it, which means the danger isn't behind her anymore. It's still very much in front of her, watching, waiting, and closer than she thinks. So who broke into that office? Stick around, because the answer is closer to Naomi than she ever imagined, and it's about to blow this entire story wide open in a way you will not see coming. Naomi refuses to quit, even sitting in the wreckage of everything that's been stolen from her in the past few weeks. She remembers the bracelet, sitting in a drawer by her bed since the night Adrian threw it across her office in a rage. She picks it up, turns it over slowly in her hands under the kitchen light, and notices something she completely missed before, a tiny, almost invisible seam along the clasp. She pries it open carefully with the edge of a bobby pin, and inside, hidden in a compartment smaller than a fingernail, sits a small brass key. The key leads her, after 2 days of careful searching, to a safety deposit box Margaret opened years ago and quietly, understandably, forgot to close, tucked away in a small credit union just outside the city. Naomi drives there the next morning, her heart pounding the entire way, half expecting the box to be empty too, expecting one more dead end in a growing pile of dead ends. It isn't empty. Inside, she finds a stack of unopened birthday cards, one for every single year Adrian has been alive since Margaret left, each one addressed, stamped, and never, ever delivered. She finds medical records proving Margaret was never mentally unstable, records someone deliberately buried to justify keeping her away from her own family for nearly 3 decades. She finds bank statements, financial records, signatures that don't match Margaret's actual handwriting at all, not even close, if you look carefully. Forged signatures, Harold's forgeries, spread across documents that pushed Margaret out of both her family and the charity she helped build from nothing. And then, tucked at the very bottom of the box, wrapped in a faded cloth, a small audio recorder, the kind people used decades ago, still somehow holding one final recording. She lays every item out across the passenger seat first, cataloging it the way Dolores taught her, taking a photo of each page with her phone before she lets herself feel anything at all. The birthday cards alone take her breath away. 28 of them. One for every candle Adrian never got to blow out with his mother in the room. Each envelope addressed in the same careful handwriting. Each one stamped and ready to mail, and never once given the chance. Naomi presses play with shaking hands, sitting alone in the parked car outside the credit union, sunlight cutting harsh lines across the dashboard. And that's when the biggest twist of the entire story drops right into her lap. Vanessa knew. She knew everything, for years, and she actively helped Harold keep Margaret away, feeding him information, covering his tracks, smoothing over every question that ever came close to the truth. Because somewhere deep inside her, Vanessa genuinely believed that without Margaret in the picture, without a warm, present mother to anchor Adrian, he would eventually turn to her instead. Naomi sits in that parked car for 20 full minutes, just staring at the recorder resting in her lap, breathing through the kind of shock that completely rewires your understanding of the people who've been standing beside you all along. She confronts Vanessa the very next day, in public, at a charity luncheon full of exactly the kind of people who matter most to the Brooks family name. Vanessa doesn't even flinch. She just laughs, cold and easy, like this whole thing genuinely amuses her. No one believes poor women over powerful families, she says, swirling her drink like they're discussing the weather instead of a stolen inheritance and a stolen mother. Margaret wasn't poor, Naomi says quietly. You just made sure the world thought she was. For the first time, Vanessa's smile wavers, just slightly, just enough for Naomi to know the recording landed exactly where it needed to. You have no proof, Vanessa says, but her voice has lost its edge. I have a recorder, Naomi says, and a wedding coming up. You should probably sit that one out. And here's where I want to bring you into this with me for a second, because I need to know something. If someone treated you the way Naomi's being treated right now, canceled honeymoon, locked doors, rumors spreading through your entire city, would you cancel the wedding on the spot and walk away quietly? Or would you stay just long enough to expose absolutely everyone first? Drop it in the comments right now. I genuinely want to see this. I'd expose them. I'd walk away silently and never look back. Let's see which answer wins. And hey, quick moment. If you're new here and you love stories that hit exactly like this one, this is a great time to hit subscribe. Because trust me, you do not want to miss what happens at that wedding. It's coming up fast. Because 2 days later, Adrian makes one final announcement, standing in front of his entire family like he's laying down a royal decree nobody's allowed to question. No one contacts my mother, he says, his voice flat and absolute. Naomi just smiles, calm as still water. She already mailed the invitation weeks ago. The wedding day finally arrives, and it is absolutely stunning. A luxury Atlanta hotel dressed head to toe in white and gold. Hundreds of guests filling the ballroom. Business leaders in tailored suits shaking hands under crystal chandeliers. Church members in their Sunday best. Family friends who've known the Brooks name for decades, all of them smiling, all of them completely unaware of what's about to unfold. Everything looks perfect from the outside, exactly the way this family has always presented itself to the world. Naomi stands backstage in her gown, the copies of every document sitting quietly in a locked box under the gift table, exactly where she placed them at 6 that morning. Her hands aren't shaking. She's surprised by how calm she feels, like she's been rehearsing this exact moment for months without realizing it. Adrian finds her a few minutes before the ceremony, straightens his jacket, and gives her a small, hopeful smile, completely unaware of what the next hour holds. "Today's going to be perfect," he says. "It's going to be honest," Naomi answers. "That's better." He laughs it off, thinking it's nerves. It isn't. And then the ballroom doors open. Margaret walks in, wearing soft lavender, her chin held high, her eyes calm and steady after 28 years of waiting for this exact moment. The entire room goes silent, all at once, like someone hit mute on a live broadcast. Harold nearly loses his footing against the head table. Vanessa stops mid-sentence, the color draining from her face. Adrian turns to Naomi, his voice barely above a whisper, shaking. "Who invited her?" Naomi doesn't blink. "I did." Margaret doesn't argue with anyone in that room. She doesn't raise her voice, doesn't make a scene. She simply walks straight to her son in front of every single guest and places one thick envelope into his hands. Inside that envelope sits every birthday letter she ever wrote him, every stolen document Dolores uncovered before her office was raided, every forged medical report, every financial record proving exactly what happened 28 years ago, and finally, one signed confession, in Harold's own unmistakable handwriting. Adrian's hands start shaking as he reads, standing there in his tuxedo in front of hundreds of witnesses. His mother never abandoned him. She spent 28 years loving him from a distance, writing to a son who never once received a single letter, praying for a reunion that his own father made absolutely certain would never, ever happen. Harold lunges for the envelope, trying to snatch it away, trying to burn 28 years of evidence in front of an entire ballroom. Naomi stops him cold, stepping directly into his path. "Too late," she says, steady and clear. "I already made copies, hundreds of them." Guests start pulling out their phones. Pages get passed hand to hand across the ballroom, whispers turning into gasps, turning into open shock. Gasps ripple through the crowd, like a wave crashing against the shore, one table at a time. The lies that survived nearly 3 decades collapse in under 3 minutes, right there under the chandeliers. Vanessa tries slipping out through a side exit, moving fast, heels clicking against marble. Hotel security stops her before she reaches the door. And in the middle of all that noise, all that chaos, all those years of buried truth finally spilling out into the light, Adrian turns to Naomi one final time. His voice cracks completely. "Can you ever forgive me?" Silence swallows the entire room, waiting. Naomi reaches up, slowly removes the engagement ring from her finger, and places it gently into his open palm. "I loved the man you pretended to be," she says, her voice steady despite everything. "I can't marry the man who believed lies before he believed love." No music plays. No one claps. The ballroom just holds its breath around one simple, devastating truth. Hundreds of people standing witness to the end of something that was never really real to begin with. Months pass. Harold faces serious criminal charges over the stolen charity funds. And this time, there's no forged signature clever enough to save him. No lawyer smooth enough to talk his way around hundreds of photographed documents. Vanessa loses her place in Atlanta society entirely. The same circles she once used like a weapon to destroy Naomi's reputation now quietly closing their doors on her instead. Dolores gets her story too, finally. the one she's chased her whole career without ever landing something this big. And it runs across 3 major outlets within the same week, cementing Margaret's name back into a legacy that was always rightfully hers. Margaret rebuilds her charity foundation from the ground up, this time with her own name on every document, every account, every single dollar accounted for and transparent. And Naomi's design company doesn't just survive the scandal, it grows stronger than ever because people across the city start talking. Not about the drama, but about her integrity, her courage, the way she chose truth over comfort, even when comfort would have been so much easier. One quiet afternoon, months after the wedding that never actually happened, Naomi drives back out to that same farmhouse wrapped in flowers, the wind chimes still swaying gently on the porch, the same birds singing like nothing terrible ever touched that quiet corner of Georgia. Margaret opens the door before she even knocks, just like the very first time. Only this time, Naomi isn't walking in as anyone's daughter-in-law. She's walking in as family, by choice, no title required. Margaret smiles, warm and steady, exactly the same way she did that very first day on the porch. "You came looking for a mother," she says softly, taking Naomi's hands in hers. "Instead, you found the truth." Naomi smiles back through tears that finally feel like relief instead of grief. On a small table by the window, sunlight catches the edge of the silver bracelet, resting quietly beside an unused engagement ring, the engraving still visible after everything this family survived. Truth survives every lie. Adrian reaches out once more, months later, in a short letter that isn't asking for anything. He tells her he's finally reading every one of his mother's birthday cards, one a week, in order, and that he's started seeing a therapist for the first time in his life. He doesn't ask Naomi to come back. He just thanks her for mailing an invitation he begged her not to send. Naomi keeps the letter. She doesn't reply right away. Some doors, she's learned, are better left open gently than slammed shut in anger. And sometimes, walking away from a wedding isn't the ending of your story. It's the very first step into the life you were always meant to walk into. If this one hit you somewhere real, you know what to do. Like it, subscribe, and drop a comment telling me what you would have done in Naomi's shoes. Until then, I'll see you in the next one.